All right. Wonderful. Well, welcome back, everyone. Hope you enjoyed your time in your breakout groups. We're going to go ahead and get back into the main part of our session tonight. So I'm going to pass it off to Ella and Layla to get us started introducing our session and our cooking demonstration for tonight.
Layla's going to be doing the cooking, and I am just going to be talking about some places where you can find the ingredients and the prices and the affordability of it. Layla, I think you're on mute. You might be on mute.
I'm sorry. Okay, well, I'm Layla once again. The meal that we'll be cooking today is Caesar salad with portobello mushrooms. And yeah, so I'm gonna I'm gonna get started. So I have mushrooms already cut and pre-washed, and I use romaine lettuce, but you can use any lettuce that you like. For seasoning the mushrooms, I have salt, black pepper, and I add like a little spice to mine, so I use Creole seasoning. And then to saute the mushrooms, I have butter and garlic, minced garlic. So to get started, I'm gonna put like a tablespoon of butter in my pan and get it melted and going. And while that is melting, I'm going to cut my salad. So this.
Layla, while you're doing that, could you tell us a little bit about why you chose this recipe to prepare for us tonight?
I chose this recipe because it's healthy. It's also affordable. Super easy to make, and you can find it at your farmer's market, local grocery store, uh, anywhere really. So right now I'm throwing in the mushrooms. And yeah, just toss that around.
I just want to go ahead and announce the prices so far. Right now, the butter was $2.72 and the portobello mushrooms are $7.50. No, I'm sorry. They are $7.55 if you get 25 pounds. So if anybody's a math major, you guys can figure out how much that is per pound.
I also got like for toppings, I got croutons. I also got Parmesan cheese to go on top. And you can also use like Caesar salad dressing, but I normally use the sauce the mushrooms are cooking in.
Okay, so currently the meal with the Caesar dressing, the meal is right now it's at $6.58 according to the Walmart prices.
Ella, could you tell us a little bit about why you felt like it was important to go and look for the prices?
I feel like it's important to look for the prices, especially since it's about food justice issues, and one of the main bases of food justice issues is about affordable, healthy, nutritional food that's available for everybody. And it has to do with cycles of poverty, especially in the South, and it's especially prevalent. And it's important because not a lot of people may know that they do have access to healthy or affordable food, or they just don't know, maybe not know how to cook. So there's just a lot of reasons. We're going to get more into it as the session progresses, but I feel like it's really important to talk about the prices because it's about affordable, healthy food for everybody.
And it's filling as well. You
It looks really good.
Thank you. It'll last you. Okay. So now that so the mushrooms take like 6 minutes or less to cook down. So I'm pretty much done. And so the next thing that I do is I take the mushrooms off the pan and just place them on top. Like that. Then I normally put a little bit of Parmesan cheese on top. Put that on. And add a few croutons, not too many. And this time I'm gonna put a little bit of dressing on top and just drizzle it on. And we're done. So final product.
That looks so good, Layla. Yay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and the current price for the meal, just for that one plate was $10, like $10.04 to be exact. Another reason why this is super important, especially as a youth council and doing a cooking demonstration, it's about teaching the youth how to cook affordably. Especially right now during quarantine, it's really easy, especially as a student, to order food or and that can get really expensive, and just not really knowing how to cook, or it's really easy just to maybe make something that's like microwavable and it's really fast, but that may not be the healthiest choice. And so sometimes as students, we don't have access all the time to home cooked meals, or so it's just finding what's available and being resourceful for it, and just being affordable at the same time, which is really important. And that's one of the main thing that goes into food justice issues. So it's really important for the youth to learn to know how to cook. And so yes, that's one reason. And I am just going to I'm going to talk about a video because we are going to show a short video. It's going to be a TED Talk, and it's going to be by a man named Ron Finley. And he lives in LA, and he actually planted a garden, and then he was arrested for it because there are certain rules. And he goes into like food prisons. He calls them food prisons, and it's about food justice issues. And he's speaking to a group of young people about encouraging people, especially young people, to plant gardens and break out of these food justice prisons as he refers to them as. And but yes, I'm just going to go ahead and let him, but he goes into food justice issues as well.
Ted Youth, Narlands, make some noise. Yeah. I'm a criminal. I know it's hard to believe looking at me, but I am. I planted a garden in South Central Los Angeles, wound up having a warrant out for my arrest for planting carrots. planting food. What this turned into? Let me ask you this first. Who in here has a garden? Who in here grows their own food? Who eats out of their garden? Okay, we're gonna go for 100%. We gotta change that. I want everybody in here, when you leave here, to have a garden. I want you to go home and plant a garden. Why? Because it empowers you. Why? Because that garden, everything starts in the garden. All of life starts in the garden. Okay? And people ask me, why did I put this garden in? What was my inspiration? My inspiration, it was heart disease, asthma, type 2 diabetes, cancer, and all these other ailments and diseases that can be treated with food. And the biggest disease of all is the disease of lack of opportunity in my communities. And I wanted to change this. So from this, we were able to have the laws changed, where you can now grow food in your parkway, the strip of land where I put my garden in Los Angeles, California. So people want to know how and where to start. And I tell them, you start at the beginning. And they're like, where is that? I said, wherever you start. It's the simplest thing. I mean, gardening is easy. Just all you need is water, seed, and soil. That's all you need. And you need to start feeding yourself. We all need to start doing this. My garden has been translated all over the world. I got kids in India, they call themselves gangster gardeners now because of a TED Talk that I did. It's going to take us to change our communities. Okay, some of these communities, I call them food prisons. Okay, because you have to literally break out of them to get any kind of healthy food. I got tired of seeing that happen. I got tired of seeing young people winding up in the morgue, young people winding up in the prison industrial complex, which I call the just us system. So with gardening, you can change this. With gardening, you can empower yourself. What I want you to do is realize that you can design your own life, okay? Don't let some other clowns design your life for you. You need to take it up on yourself and design your own life. And this is what I did with my garden. My garden has everything from bananas and strawberries and apples and oranges and watermelons and collard greens. But I can't seem to figure out why the watermelons and the collard greens, they always come up missing. I don't know. Maybe it's got something to me doing, the fact that I'm in South Central. I don't know. I mean, these are bees that they've been in my house for like 2 years. They just decided to take over this trash can. What I want you guys to do is realize that it all starts from art. Everything is art. Okay, when you even designing your life is art. Okay, you can recreate your life whenever you want, at every turn that you have, and that's what you need. That's what we need to do. What I would like everybody in this room to do is, when you leave here, decide on, this is what I want my life to be. This is how I want to change my life. And you can do that with gardening. Gardening is the gateway for you to design in your life. And it affects and enhances every part of your life. Every part. Eating healthy food. We need to have these schools redesigned, where the school is inside the garden, not the garden inside the school. All of life happens in the garden. That's where our lessons come from. I have these preschool kids. They come in the garden and they eat literally right from the soil. That's going to change their whole outlook on food and their reaction to food for the rest of their life. What I want to holler at you guys. I want to spit some game at you for a minute. Girls girls love flowers. I don't know why, they just love some flowers. Plant flowers, okay? I want everybody, I want all of us to, when you leave here, to go and get dirty. And guys, when you do that, pull up your damn pants, please. Deuces.
All right.
Just really quickly, I want, just after we got back from the video, does anybody have any questions or comments about the video or questions about food justice issues in general? I'm totally fine if not. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was on the same page, and hopefully that provided some more clarification into the insight of what food justice issues are and where they are rooted and how they can affect communities and young people. Now I think we can go into the discussion questions, if that's okay with everybody. And the first discussion question is, why is food justice important? Food justice is really important because it's inherently a human right. I believe that, I mean, it definitely is a human right. Everybody should have access to clean, healthy food. And it's really important about being self-sustainable. That's part of the ASAN's mission, is sustainability and helping the environment and getting back to the roots. Agriculture is such an important part of the world that not a lot of people see or know about, and especially food justice issues. Nobody really talks about it or knows about it, and it affects so many people in so many different ways. It affects the economy, it affects people's health, and it affects like racial justice issues. So there are so many different parts that food justice issues can play into and have an effect on. So that's one reason why it's really important to learn about it and open up the conversation and the education of what food justice issues are, so we can go towards a brighter and better future. Does anybody have any questions or comments about anything that I just said? If anybody would like to weigh in to anything? If not, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Layla for the next discussion question.
I was going to say, sorry, I was going to say I really enjoyed that cooking demonstration. That was really good. It was just like really good, and easy, and something that, I guess everyone could do at home, and with kind of like, some ready-made ingredients, and then, some things you could actually maybe do yourself, grow yourselves. And, I think with, the community gardens, maybe, even if it's just like, one or two vegetables that you could add and grow yourself, like in Alabama, collard greens are super easy to grow. They just grow prolifically, and they're very insect resistant, and they grow in the winter time. Like a lot of people think like summer is the only time for growing a garden, but like collard greens are actually like a winter vegetable, and they're super easy. Everybody loves them, especially when they're fresh from Alabama instead of like imported from California. Like, like I feel like kale is
Oh no, Miss Joy, I think we lost you. Your sound got disconnected.
Okay. So overall, I think Miss Joy was basically just, I think she really summed it up, especially from Alabama. That goes into the economy as well. It brings it. Having locally grown food brings jobs to Alabama, and Alabama is among the top 20 of the poorest states in the United States. So it's really important to bring money for Alabama and provide jobs for people within the state. But yes, does anybody else have any more comments or questions, or they would like to weigh in anything?
Yeah, I was gonna answer the question. I believe, or just the world would be a healthier, better place, to put it in the most simple terms. I mean, there's so much sickness, disease, and hate, and I think that a lot of it could be solved if everybody kind of resorted to a healthier option. And like I said, Alabama is one of the poorest countries in the United States, and I think because of that, that food justice isn't known in Alabama. Like, I could ask any of my friends what it is, and that they wouldn't know. And I could also ask one of my friends to choose between a candy bar and a bag of broccoli, and they would choose the candy bar because it's cheaper and it's sweeter. And well, even though that candy bar might give you cancer in the future, no one knows that. Like, no one was really aware of that. And so I think that's a really good way food justice plays, just showing people that the healthier option is the better option, and that it'll help you in the long run so much better than take that quick sweetness.
Yeah, I totally agree. I want to say that there's a lot of organizations fighting for food justice, especially for the youth. Things like the Jones Valley Teaching Farm, they have several farms throughout Birmingham to help the youth get active in growing and to help teach their family how to grow. And I think it's important in these times now to learn how to grow your own food and learn how to cook it, learn how it works for your health.
The Jones Valley Teaching Farm is, well, the person who started it also did one here in Montgomery called Eat South, and it's a teaching farm as well. I think it's important what Matthew was saying in terms of having choice in what people will choose. And I was a kindergarten teacher, and I made vegetables. There was a Food Network where you're exposing children to different types of food so they don't become put in these boxes where you think one is better than the other. Once you have more experience just eating the fruits and vegetables, you will more likely to like them. So we have to get into the habit of, number one, not saying it's broccoli, like, you want broccoli or you want a candy bar? It's because your face just said you're not gonna like it, and you don't know if they'll like it or not. So that was one thing. And Ella was talking about access to food in the stores. You'll find often the junk food is cheaper than the real food. But as people get more exposed, it's going to be very important that everybody, especially youth, participate in the food cycle, so that we know how to grow food. Because if nobody wants to farm, then we won't have food. And it's not easy, and people will definitely opt for the easier option. But it is so fun just getting your feet in the dirt and everything.
Yeah, if I could chime in just right quick. I just want to, when Ms. Keisha was talking about the impact you can see working with especially with the younger grades, the primary years, when they're exposed to maybe trying new foods in new ways. So I'm a garden educator in Tuscaloosa with an organization called Schoolyard Roots. We do pretty similar programming to what Jones Valley and Eat South do. We're just in kindergarten through fifth. But yeah, as an educator, it's one of my absolute favorite activities when it comes time for the cooking lessons. Because of course, when you're just talking about it, oh, you know, you should eat more vegetables, it doesn't really have the same impact. But actually, you know, having the experience of planting and growing something from seed to harvest when you're 5 to 10 years old is like nothing. I mean, I didn't have that experience when I was that age, and even just working with teachers, you know, who might be getting to pull a carrot out for the first time. So I think just having that hands-on experience and realizing how easy, even if you're in kindergarten, you can mix the ingredients for a veggie dip and shake it up and taste your snap peas and all that is worth, you know, just that firsthand experience is where I really see kind of the magic of exposure to healthy foods. And I think that's where you kind of make that connection early on that, you know, doing this is fun and it's good for the earth and it's good for our bodies and everything. So.
If I may suggest, all of us making a commitment to showing how much food is important part of life. While I was a teacher, I had a no junk food zone. So the 5-year-olds would come in and ask me if the bag of chips had monosodium glutamate in it, and there were 5. And instead of bringing junk food to the parties, they would bring fruits and vegetables. So like Valentine's Day, I was like, how are they going to get creative with this? They were very creative and the parents were very supportive. So one kid brought a box of big strawberries. He would pass one, eat one, pass one, eat one. But they were cute. They're heart shaped. They're red. It went over well. Another parent gave pencils. So there was just that culture set in the class, and people enjoyed it. And I enjoyed seeing that it is possible. And that was in South Central Los Angeles, where the guy was just speaking from. So you guys all promise to incorporate more healthy stuff in life. Yeah. And like that cooking demonstration, Layla, you should be eating right now. Don't be ashamed. Just go ahead and tear it up so we see you enjoy it because that makes a difference too. They'll be like, oh, she's eating it. She likes it. That's a commercial from when I was young. Hey, Mikey.
Miss Keisha, I gotta agree with you on that one. That's a really good point. Like, that's one of my strategies whenever I would cook healthier options for my friends or kids who I was teaching. I wouldn't tell them it was healthy until afterwards, and that usually worked. So,
And I think just doing that, you know, in a classroom is awesome because, you know, when peers see their other friends eating this healthy food, they want to try it and they think they don't get this preconceived notion that, oh, my mom cooked it, it's not that good, you know, so that's awesome. What a great thing to do. I think, yeah, also, you know, the TED Talk was really informative and really, I mean, it's almost like if you're able to just grow a little bit of your own food, I know you can't sustain yourself probably on your own garden, but you can at least grow a few things. You know, that's really almost like, you know, youth, you know, they want to rebel in some way. And really, that's almost like an act of rebellion. That's why that guy got arrested, I guess. So you can kind of like rebel in a good way, you know, that's, you know, going to be healthy and, you know, just saving your seed. That's another, you know, way of, you know, kind of going against the system that's trying to make you eat this certain way.
That commitment can be on all levels. Even, I don't know if people are in college dorms right now, but when I was in the dorm, I had an illegal little cooking device, and people would come from down the hall because they would smell food cooking or something. And and so then they want to see what you're eating. And then if they see some sauteed greens, they'll be like, Oh, maybe one day they'll start to eat it and want some because it smells so good. Whenever you put onions or garlic in a pan, it brings everybody in.
Thank you guys so much for everybody's input. This is so cool. I'm so glad. Like, we are definitely achieving the goal of this session of creating an open conversation about these issues. Um, the next discussion question, if anybody has any more comments, you guys can put them in the chat. But I think we're just going to go ahead and transition to the next discussion question, and I'm going to hand it off to Layla.
Okay, so the next question is, what food injustices have you seen in your community? For me, I've seen in very poverty-stricken communities, it's food deserts, and there's like only 1 to 2, maybe grocery stores that price gouge a lot of their produce, like Ella mentioned before. Um, there's a lot of fast food restaurants in those communities versus when you live in a more wealthy community, there's stores like Whole Foods and Publixes and things like that catered to produce and healthy eating, a healthy lifestyle. So I wanted to ask the participants in the audience, what food injustices have you seen in your community?
Um, Well, for me, I come from a town called Roanoke, Alabama. It's really small, um, and I love the town. That's where I grew up. That's where I've spent most of my life. But there are definitely downfalls um, in my county. It's the poverty rate is pretty high, so seeing firsthand what it's like for many students just not having access to healthy food and then just not knowing about those healthy foods. And there's one sort of dinner group that my family is a part of called the Hoochie Poosa Locavores, and and it's really important, and it's what actually introduced me to food justice issues in the first place. They actually introduced me to ASAN in general, so I always got that background. But I know that many of my friends and then just many people in my community, especially young people, just don't have access to that, and that goes into cycles of poverty and the racial inequality of poverty, and all of these are affected by food justice issues. And some of it's due to lack of education also, like farmers. When you think about jobs in agriculture, I mean, most people just think about farmers and they don't want to do that type of labor. There's nothing wrong with that type of labor, but I know that young people immediately think of farmers when they think of jobs in agriculture. But there are so many different jobs in agriculture, and it's such a big industry in or for the world. It's what feeds people. It's what provides food. So it's really important that we stay true to um, like feeding people and allowing people to eat and knowing that how important food is.
Cool. I'm going to answer the question. I think is organic or healthier foods are more expensive than your cheaper products. And I have actually a really great example. When I was in Publix the other day, I was doing last minute shopping for Thanksgiving, and I was requested to, excuse me, I was requested to buy some granola and some red onions. And so I go to the cereal aisle, and I'm looking all the sugar cereals, Cocoa Puffs, Tricks, all that. They're like $2 a big box. Like, that's a good deal, but I wouldn't buy it. It's really bad. And then I go to the granola bar. There's a small little box, maybe that big. It was $5, and it was organic. And I said, well, I mean, to me, it's worth it, and so I bought it. And then I go to the vegetable aisle, and there is a bag of 12 onions for $6. And I was like, okay, that's a good deal. So I put in my buggy and I go over there to the organic aisle to see what they have. There was a bag with just one onion in it for $3, and it was organic also. And I think that's a big problem, because people are going to be drawn more to the much cheaper stuff than the organic, more expensive stuff, products. And I mean, yeah, I'm strong for organic, but a lot of people aren't. A lot of people will just instantly go for the cheaper product, even though it's bad for them, because either they can't afford it, or they don't want the organic product. They want the more sugary or more fat, products.
So, are y'all done, Matthew? Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
I'm good. Yes, I'm done.
Just here, let me turn my video on. Sorry. The question reminded me a little bit of something just since COVID-19. At Schoolyard Roots, we've not been able to do as much in-person teaching programming, of course. So one thing we decided to do this spring with our gardens, we had a ton of produce, but we weren't around for cooking lessons like we usually do with in person at the end of the spring semester. So so at many of our schools, which are many of which are Title I schools in pretty low income areas, everybody gets free lunch and breakfast at school. And so when COVID started, it was a big problem, because families who might depend on school for meals their children weren't at school, so they weren't getting that. Fortunately, the school system, of course, stepped up and was giving out kind of bagged meals with stuff that keeps a little bit better. And that's great. I'm really glad they did it, obviously, because people had to eat. But what we decided to do was we harvested as much produce as we could from our gardens, and we asked the CMP directors if we could set up a free produce stand along with the regular food items that everyone got, which was, mostly like, again, stuff that would keep: frozen pizza, cereal, things like that. But so yeah, we gave away, I don't know if any of my colleagues are in here know how many pounds we harvested probably hundreds of pounds of produce that spring, and decided to give that away with a little bit of a little insert about maybe some recipes, how to cook it and everything. So that was one, just with COVID, I think we saw more food injustice come up, especially with issues with that, like with school meals and everything. And I think the more schools are able to have a garden program, the more access people have to freshly grown things that many organizations like ours want to give away for free or for really cheap for sale in the community, I think is one way to address a small part of food injustice.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on. I'm not really adding too much new, but I'm in California, and I have like a similar I'm part of a similar organization as Tom is, and we were I was running like an educational like garden system. It wasn't really a production garden. It was just kind of like we were growing like small things to show people like this is how like asparagus grows, but wasn't really much for consumption. But when COVID hit, we ramped up, and we pretty much like turned our education garden into a production garden. And we're at this point, we were donating like 100, 150 pounds of produce a week to different organizations around my county, and just being able to donate all of this like really fresh produce that was sent out to families the same day was kind of our organization's way of trying to address all of the food insecurity that kind of arose due to the pandemic.
I think that's really, oh, sorry. Somebody going to say something?
Go ahead.
Oh, that, I mean, when you guys, like donated the food, like how did did they want the food or take the food, that you guys grew? And you
Yeah,
get
I think
feedback
fresh. Yeah, I think fresh produce is definitely like the highest in demand thing versus like, I think prior to us being able to donate, they were only able to kind of hand out like cereals and kind of prepared foods. And so being able to give families fresh produce, at least according to them, was something that families really were excited about. And we also grew really like fun and interesting, or I mean, not that all produce isn't interesting, but we had things like lemon cucumbers and like purple cauliflower, and those things are really exciting for families as well.
Cool. Yeah, we tried to give like, maybe one root vegetable, one leafy green, and one, we had a lot of fresh herbs. So we did mint or dill, and people were excited. I think some people talked about wanting to make tea with the mint and all that. But, we always asked if they would like a bag of fresh produce, and I don't think anyone ever said no. And some people even asked for 2 bags, so we gave them 2 bags.
Yeah, we would try to provide recipe cards as well of just different ideas of how to use, like, I mean, we have so much lettuce and there's only so many ways you can eat lettuce. So we would try to provide different recipes to help people kind of come up with new ideas of how to eat the same produce in different ways.
Hey
Wow.
everyone. Oh, is that work? Sorry, I'm late. I'm Nicole. I work with Tom and Natalie and Taylor at School Year Roots, and I wanted to say on that question of like whether or not people were excited to get fresh produce. Absolutely, folks were excited, and Tom was talking about like people making tea out of mint and stuff, and I think something that's really cool that I've seen in a lot of the produce giveaways that we've done is that, it might seem like something like mint or dill or rosemary, like those aren't really essential foods, it's not like bread or meat or milk. But I think that there's like a certain amount of dignity in being able to have access to like interesting and unique foods that you can like make what you eat like flavorful and feel special and feel healthy or interesting. I think, I don't know, I think sometimes especially when it comes to like food, we get so wrapped up in this idea that like people just need nutrients, but really people also need to be able to have the ability to like be excited about what they're cooking and find joy in like creating food, cooking food, creating food, and sharing food together, and have like pride in what is created. So I think that that's something that I saw when we were giving out like weird, interesting, different kind of produce. Thanks. This is cool. Thank you for putting this on.
Thank you guys for your input. Just really quickly in the last couple of minutes, the next discussion question is, why do you all think that these food justice issues exist in our community?
Sorry. Real quickly, my answer to that question, I think these injustices happen in my community because, well, my community, there's a lot of poor people. That's simple. I mean, a lot of people around here are more driven to buy the cheaper stuff, which frankly and sadly is the more they're more drawn to the cheap products, which are the products that are bad for you.
Just to answer this question as well, I think one reason why these food justice issues exist in our community is definitely based on, in America at least, I definitely think it's partly due to America's history. especially racially, the racial injustices that have happened over the past that are still deeply rooted within our country. That plays a big role, especially because the most races who live under the poverty line are minorities. So that's really important to remember. So that's one reason why I think they exist in our communities, or that's one reason why they play a role in that.
Yeah, I totally agree with Ella and Matt. I really think that there's a deeper underlining problem that with people of color, them living in more poverty communities than our other fellow people. But yeah.
Yeah, I have thought, a lot about, food injustice, healthcare injustice, the disparities, and just highlighting, it's all being highlighted by COVID that, that's definitely a huge, racial gap as far as, people who are getting a lot more sicker or dying. Like I'll just overhear conversations while I'm waiting in line at a store, and like there's this black person that's in front of me, and he's like talking to someone else, and he says, "Yeah, man, people are just dying all around me," and it's really just super highlighted right now that it does start with your health. Food is part of your health. um you know just eating these high calorie, low nutrition foods because they're cheap. They're processed and they're super cheap, like with the processed foods. um and I think part of it is it's just like a byproduct of the system that nobody cares about this group that may be impoverished and not gain. It's just like a byproduct of this system that we live in. Unfortunately, that's part. I feel like that's part of it. It's not like maybe not done on purpose, but just it's a group that's not acknowledged very much, and they have no voice.
Okay, so if we don't have any more questions or comments, then I think we can go ahead and bring this session to a close. So thank you guys so much for coming. I'm gonna hand it over to Sav for some closings.
Thank you, Ella. Thank you, Ella, Layla, and Matt, for a really awesome discussion. I'll just say these youth council members have been working really hard for many months on putting this session together. Incredible food demonstration, awesome discussion. Thank you all so much for participating. I just want to take a moment to encourage y'all to consider joining ASAN. ASAN is the organization that allows conversations like this to happen, right? For our young people to not only share this information with you now tonight, but to spend a whole year on the council talking with one another, sharing with one another, building with one another, having these kinds of conversations on the monthly. So just want to encourage y'all to consider joining ASAN. We are a membership-led organization to continue supporting this work over the next year. Besides that, we're gonna go ahead and close out, let y'all get on with your evenings. We have a very, very, very like quick 3-second poll just to get a sense of what y'all thought about tonight. But again, just thank y'all so much for joining, for putting into discussion all the work and commitments that y'all have already lived up to and that you might be thinking about making. Just definitely want lift up what Ms. Keisha said earlier about making commitments to food justice. And it seems like many of y'all are already doing that work. So just hats off to that. Again, hats off to our youth council members who put this session together. Very grateful for y'all and wonderful job. So let y'all get on with your evening. Thank y'all so much for coming.